Hello, welcome back to our next episode in Religions of the World. We will now start Judaism. This will be a three-part section. The first session will be on early Jewish mythology and legends, and the second part will be about Jewish temple cult. And then we will finish our third session with Judaism and the synagogue. I don't know about you, but somehow I have the feeling that the videos that I take inside are not as interesting as the ones outside. I also have been cooped up here since 5 days inside the apartment. It feels like a prison, and I would like to have some freedom now. So it's sunny outside, the sun is shining, so let me just grab my coat and let's go outside to talk more about Judaism. Let's walk around the neighborhood a little bit. So now I'm escaping from the inside to finally find some freedom here outside in the sunshine. Oh, how beautiful. And let's just walk around and wander around in the neighborhood together. You know, it's interesting actually. That is the theme of Judaism. It is the story of leaving to find the promised land. It is the story to leave oppression for freedom. It is the story to follow God and God's guidance for a better life. On Wednesday is the beginning of Passover, one of the most important holidays in Judaism. It is the story of the Israelites escaping from captivity to find the promised land. It is leaving slavery behind and finding freedom under God's guidance.
God had kept his promise. His people were free.
Each thing symbolizes a different aspect of Passover.
It's interesting that even the earliest creeds or statements of faith in Judaism start out with, a wandering Aramean was my father. See, I brought my Bible with me, and I will stop now, sit down, and read you that early creed. Here we read from Deuteronomy, the 26th chapter, beginning at the 5th verse. A wandering Aramean was my ancestor. He went down into Egypt and lived there as an alien, few in numbers. And there he became a great nation, mighty and populous. When the Egyptians treated us harshly and afflicted us by imposing hard labor on us, we cried to the Lord, the God of our ancestor. The Lord heard our voice and saw our affliction, our toil, and our oppression. The Lord brought us out of Egypt with a mighty hand and an outstretched arm, with a terrifying display of power, and with signs and wonders. And he brought us into this place, and gave us this land, a land flowing with milk and honey. That is the most important story for Judaism. Who is that father, that forefather, the ancestor? Many of you may know that it is Abraham. It's the family story of Abraham and Sarah, Isaac and Rebekah, Jacob and his wives Leah and Rachel, and their son Joseph. Let's meet Abraham. Let's take a deeper look at some of the stories along the way. In Genesis 22, God is asking Abraham to sacrifice his son Isaac. Or in Islam, that story is told that Abraham is asked to offer up Ishmael. The story of Judaism is also the story of God making covenants with people. The first covenant goes all the way back to Noah. Noah is being asked to build an ark because of the flood that is coming. At the end, God is making a covenant by saying that I will be your God, I will never again destroy the earth again, and there is a sign for that. I will put my bow, my rainbow, into the sky. And in turn, Noah already proved himself to be faithful by building an covenant God makes with Abraham after calling him away from Ur. And so God made the covenant with Abraham, promising him the land and that he will become a nation. And in turn, Abraham is supposed to be faithful. He is also supposed to circumcise every male in his household. The third covenant comes much later. Now the people are already a nation. They have grown big in Egypt and have escaped Egypt and have found themselves at the bottom of Mount Sinai. Here we see Moses. Moses who went up to the mountain to receive the 10 Commandments. 10 Commandments are important. They're not just the things you know, like I am the Lord your God, you shall not have other gods besides me, or you shall keep this holiday, the Sabbath day, holy, or honor your father and your mother, or you shall not kill, or you shall not steal. You probably know them, maybe from confirmation class or other places when you grew up. But they are also like Israel's constitution. It is by the power of God here that a new nation is founded. And here are the rules by which it lives. And the covenant is that God will be their God. And they in turn have to keep the covenant. They have to keep the laws. Not just the 10 Commandments, but there are many, many laws that need to be kept by the Jewish people. When Moses returned from the mountain with the 10 Commandments, the Israelites placed it in a box called the Ark of the Covenant. And they made a tent around it. They called it a tent of meeting. People were able to transport it. The Israelites believed that within that box, that's where God is present. Moses set aside the tribe of Levi to be the priests. Only they were allowed to carry the ark. And the ark always went ahead. When the smoke lifted from the tent of meeting, that was the sign for the Israelites that God is moving on and that they're wandering few more days further through the desert. Of course, the desert wandering was also quite a bit of a temptation. They started complaining to Moses why he was taking them out of Egypt where they had such rice vegetables, because out here in the desert there's nothing to eat. It is a typical saying that Jewish people have no problem debating with God. There's even a Yiddish word for that to quetch or quetching. That means yeah, but I don't like this. That's the quetching, that's debating. And oftentimes the Israelites would debate with God. Why did you do this to us? Why don't you bless us? Why is this and why is that? In Judaism, that's a good thing to do. That means there is a living relationship. God can be spoken with, and God can change God's mind. The point is that God always provided for them with manna or bread from heaven, or quails in the desert, or even water from the rock. They stayed out there for 40 years before they finally could take entrance into the promise. He was not allowed to enter the promised land. He died just looking over it, and then passed on the baton to Joshua. Joshua finally entered the land, and slowly but surely there was a progression of taking different towns and possess the land in Israel. It's interesting that at that time each town had a king, and so the Israelites are defeating each one of those kings and beginning to settle more and more of their towns and their villages and the land. After Joshua died, there were the judges. Each clan occasionally had somebody rise up to take leadership, but it was still a relatively loose confederation of tribes, not a unified nation yet. The problem was that once the Israelites started to settle in the promised land, they kind of forgot about the Ark of the Covenant. In the desert, it was always with them. They were always following it. But here, once they had settled, the ark was parked at Shechem. They put up the tent there, and now the people did their normal things. They built their houses, they tended their herds, they grew their vegetables and their grains, and they didn't really think about going back up to the tent of meeting to worship God or to thank God. And so they easily mixed in with the gods of the Canaanites and the peoples that were around there, breaking their covenant by following other gods. A constant struggle between the Israelites and God, that at times led them again into captivity or away from their land. And then they yearned and came back home into the land, and then they were dispersed again. It is an ongoing story. This is where I end for today. Next time we will hear how Israel became more of a nation with a king.